Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady, your host. And for this, I am joined by Aaron Prendergast, the man behind GAA Fan TV, to run through all of the GAA action from the last weekend. Aaron, another good weekend of GAA action.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of great talking points, a lot of great games. Obviously, I think there was 5 or 6 games maybe on TV shown this weekend. We even got some Division 3 action on BBC iPlayer, which was good to see. And obviously a couple of Division 2 games live on TV as well. So yeah, it was very, very entertaining. I suppose for ourselves as Dublin fans, we're relieved to get over the line against Cork. Like it was very, very close, and it's another one of them games where I think Dublin can be quite lucky. In some ways we really, really escaped. Even some of the refereeing decisions probably went their way as well, which we'll get onto a little bit later. And then, just some really good games. Like obviously Mayo and Kerry was probably the game of the weekend, I felt. It was very, very entertaining. Maybe it was probably over realistically, at half time, but I thought entertainment-wise it was pretty good. And I thought that was a fairly decent game. And yeah, like Roscommon winning 3 from 3. Not many people predicted that at the start of the year. And excited to be on once again.
Yeah. Before we get into the league action, we are just going to touch very briefly on the Fitzgibbon final. Of course, UL 419, NUIG 113. That's University of Limerick versus University of Galway. For the first time in University of Limerick's history, they have put 2 Fitzgibbon Cups back to back. And really, this was an amazing performance. As far as Fitzgibbon Cup finals go, Aaron, this was as one-sided a final as I've seen, to be honest. They just were awesome in this game.
Yeah, no, they absolutely were. Like, and especially for University of Limerick, like I think coming in on the back of, like, I always find Fitzgibbon Cups, Sigerson Cups, they're very rarely done back to back because obviously their team changes year on year. Like, you're not going to have the same players that you had, last year, and even UL have had a few changes in their team this year. But no, like they were absolutely dominant from start to finish. I mean, Michael Kiley, like what a talent this guy is.
4 goals in a point.
4 goals in it, like. Not too sure if there's ever been another player to score 4 goals in a major final, major senior final. Like
the first half hat trick as well. Like,
yeah,
remarkable.
No, he was absolutely outstanding. Like, and even for UL as well. Like when you look at their players, like they have a lot of very, very good talent from Adam English, obviously as well, Mark Rogers, Killian Sampson in around midfield, Colin Coughlin in a wing back. Like they have, like when you actually look at their team from 1 to 15, there's a lot of inter-county players in there, and the standard is really, really high. And to have that motivation and commitment to go again after, winning it last year and to back it up and to do it in the style that they did, it was unbelievable. And maybe from a contest point of view, it was a little bit disappointing. Like it was a bit disappointed with University of Galway at times. Like I thought they could have done a lot more in the game, but I think at the same time you look at UL and like they were absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, completely agree. And another name on that list of players coming for the future obviously is Gerard O'Connor. I mean, 9 points I think it was from him, and then Brian O'Mara at centre half back, just absolutely outstanding captain in the side. Then of course the Ballyhale contingent, Dara Corcoran and Dean Mason, obviously the goalkeeper. Like just as good a college team as I've seen, really. I mean, a lot of college sides, you look back at them and with hindsight, you say, wow, this team has a lot of, players that would go on to be stars. But there are a few lads in this team that are already inter-county stars. Like Mark Rogers is already one of Clare's best forwards. Michael Kiley, same with Waterford. Colin Coughlin is already fairly established in Limerick as, an absolute beast there in the half-back line. Brian O'Mara starts for Tipperary. So there's nothing really unknown about these UL lads. And on the flip side of their actual attacking potential, their defending in this game was brilliant. You thought like the obvious 2 threats for University of Galway was indeed Brian Kincannon and Evan Nyland. The 2 of them only managed to get 2 points each from play. Obviously, Nyland, you add on his frees, which, he's pretty much guaranteed to get at least 4 or 5 a game. But from open play, Nyland and Kincannon were the clear targets for the UL defence. And I have to say, I thought they held them extremely well.
Yeah, like Brian O'Mara, as you said there, like that was an outstanding performance from him in a centre back. TJ Brennan, I thought, done really, really well in a full back as well. Like he dealt with a lot of the high balls that were coming in and they were just very tight as well. Like they weren't allowing University of Galway to have that much space on the ball or time on the ball, and it was just hard for them really to get into a flow. Like there weren't too many moments in the game where it looked like they were going to come back into it. It was just dominance really from the first minute right up until the final whistle. And as you said, like defensively very, very strong. And like they say, attack is the best form of defense, and that was the case for UL at times as well. Like they were always on the front foot, always turning them over, even around midfield as well. Like Killian Sampson, I thought a very, very good game in there as well. Midfielder, obviously with the Offaly hurlers. So yeah, like a lot to be positive for from a UL perspective, and defensively very, very strong. And even some of the lads who maybe wouldn't be too familiar with intercounty hurling, like the likes of TJ Brennan, even for example, these lads are definitely putting their hands up maybe for their senior county sides.
Yeah, because especially for TJ Brennan, that was against Galway. Like a lot of lads he would have known in that team. He would have felt maybe a pressure that the other lads in his team would not have felt. But that's for sure. Henry Shefflin will definitely have him on his radar now after that. That is that game wrapped up. Now we move on to the Allianz Football League action. Before we obviously move on, congratulations to University of Limerick, back-to-back Fitzgibbon Cup champions, and they're 8th in total. But now to the Allianz League. I'm going to start in Division 1 with what I thought was the most consequential game of the weekend, and that was this one. Monaghan 120, Donegal 15 points. And the reason that I believe that this one was the most consequential is I think Donegal are actually staring down the barrel of a potential relegation now. I know they started really, really well, beating Kerry, but I just looked at this one and I just thought this is trouble for Donegal. They're going away to Clones, a Monaghan side that, while yes, they have lost to Armagh, to Kerry, they've played okay and they need a victory. And Monaghan always put up a fight in Division 1 and they've managed to escape. They're like a cat with 9 lives. And I'm thinking this is the game that Monaghan are going to win. And they did. It was neck and neck, but by God, Monaghan pulled away at the end, winning by 8 points.
Yeah, like it was a big result for Monaghan, all right. And as you said, like I think you predicted Monaghan to get the victory. I know I did as well. Like I think you were like, although I would still look at Monaghan and I still do worry that they will go down. One thing you can never disregard Monaghan is their fight. Like they always have that fight, determination, and it's probably what's got them out of jail at times, as well as obviously like they've plenty of quality in Jack McCarron and Conor McManus, like two of their star forwards. But even in the last 2 weeks when McCarron's been injured and McManus hasn't been playing, like they've still, like, although they were blown away by Kerry in the second half, I thought they stuck with them in the first and they were competitive enough. And even against Armagh, like they were a little bit unlucky. Few decisions maybe went against them that day, and just a little bit unlucky at times with the bounce of the ball and everything else. But in this one, as you said, like they would have been targeting this. Like they've beat Donegal in the league the last 2 seasons. So that was obviously key in them staying up in the last 2 years. So they would have looked at this and thought, like, if we've any chance of staying up, we need to win this game, because it's not only about getting the 2 points, but it's also taking the 2 points away from Donegal as well. And yeah, it was a commanding result. Like, Jack McCarron back in the side, scoring 7 points. You'd Conor McManus coming off the bench late on as well, getting a couple of scores. You the likes of Sean Jones in there getting a crucial goal at a crucial time in the game. And to be fair to Vinnie Corey, like the main positive for Monaghan is they're getting scores in a lot of areas of the pitch. Like Micheál Bannigan's contributing, O'Hanlon's getting a couple of points in there as well. And they really did shut down Donegal. And yeah, from a Donegal perspective, it is worrying times, because like Paddy McBrearty's injured, possibly going to be out for the rest of the year. We all know the retirements that they've had. Yeah, like it's worrying signs for Donegal, and you're looking at them and thinking, although they already have a win on the board, and look, they're not out of it until they're out of it, but you would look at them and be quite worried for them.
Yeah, without doubt, because you're looking down the list now and there's no easy games left. Like in terms of Roscommon, obviously we're a team at the beginning of the league that a lot of people were saying, Roscommon are going to be favourites for relegation. They've beaten Armagh, they've beaten Tyrone, and they've beaten Galway. That's not an easy game for Donegal in any stretch of the imagination. And then obviously you mentioned about Monaghan's forwards. Conor McManus obviously coming back into the side, his first appearance of the year. But another veteran of Monaghan GAA was outstanding in this game, Darren Hughes.
Absolutely, yeah. Like his work around the middle was fantastic. Like, and he was key for Monaghan once again. And like that's the thing with Monaghan is that, like, in fairness to them, like we all look at Monaghan and we think that some of their older players are dropping off, and there's always this assumption about Monaghan because they're such a small county and that they don't have a huge history, like sort of pre 2011, really, of being dominant in Ulster or being a consistent Division 1 side. So we've all sort of maybe looked at Monaghan and thought at some point there's going to be a drop and at some point there's going to be a fall. And to be fair, it's there definitely has been a fall in the last couple of seasons in the sense that they're not getting to All-Ireland semi-finals, or they're not one of the favourites for Ulster anymore. But at the same time, they're older players and they're older guard. They're not slowing down. Like Kieran Hughes is still doing it. Jack McCarron is still doing it. Conor McManus, who I thought had a poor enough year last year, but he comes off the bench, scores 2 points. No rustiness really involved there. So yeah, like from a Monaghan perspective, like and even some of the young lads like Sean Jones, who has burst onto the scene in the last years, look fairly well. So from a Monaghan perspective, I think they can take a lot of positives, and Kieran Hughes was brilliant.
Yeah, no, without doubt. I thought the old guard, Darren Hughes is 35 now, 36. Like he's still going strong. McManus the same, and he had a direct hand in Sean Jones's goal. And I think, look, Monaghan, never write them off. They could pull off another great escape. You never know. Moving on then to the other end of the table, up the top, Roscommon continued their 100% start under David Burke to Division 1. They beat Armagh by 112 to 12 points. I mean, once again, Armagh put to the sword, the same sword that Tyrone were put to, the same sword that Galway were put to, and Roscommon continue their momentum. I mean, honestly, I predicted a draw for this game. I thought they'd be neck and neck. They were, but of course, a foul on Ben O'Carroll for a penalty, which Enda Smith tucks away, proves the difference.
Yeah, like, and the thing about Roscommon is that they're just showing a tremendous amount of grit and determination. Like all 3 games, were in the balance going into the final 20 minutes. And Roscommon have managed to sort of get the edge on all of their opponents in those games. Like they were, neck and neck with Tyrone for about 50 minutes, pulled away in the final 20, got a couple of late goals. Against Galway, they were down and out going into the final couple of minutes, pulled away. And then in this game, they were losing at half time. And then obviously at the start of the second, had a burst, I think scored 1-2 without reply, that penalty from Enda Smith and a couple of points from German Murtha. And then they just, they kicked on from there. And anytime it looked like maybe Armagh might pull themselves back into it, Roscommon would find a way to deal with it. And like defensively, they've been outstanding, like no goals conceded. Conor Daly, I think, has been one of the players of the league so far, because not only defensively has he been excellent at fullback, but he's also getting points as well. Like he scored 2 cracking points in that game, like one of them with the outside of his boot. So yeah, like I think Roscommon are like it. Like I said it even to Matthew last night. I was thinking, like, I don't think it might sound a bit ridiculous, but I think Roscommon are All-Ireland contenders, like, because like Mayo and Galway, when you think about it, like they've always kind of been thereabouts with Mayo and Galway. The problem for Roscommon has been after Connacht, and then the problem has been when they've got to quarterfinals and semi-finals. But when you think about it, like Galway got to an All-Ireland final last year. Mayo have been thereabouts. Obviously last year not so much, but they've been thereabouts. So like I don't think Roscommon are a million miles away. The only problem,
I think it's a good point, but I feel like with Roscommon, maybe this is just a narrow-minded thing, but I always thought that maybe Roscommon, especially under Anthony Cunningham, they loved like a tight pitch. They loved a bit of a dirty day for a game of football, like especially that year that they had Poacher in with them, and they loved like just getting like a 112 to 12 point victory or something. And I always thought, look, if they played them in Croke Park, the game would be completely different, as shown by the fact that when they played Mayo in the quarterfinal, I think it was 2016 or 2017, Mayo blew them away in the replay. I was saying, look, I think that kind of was the case, but I definitely agree with you that times are changing here. Like I think Roscommon could definitely be dark horses anyway.
Definitely, like, and even last year, I think a lot of us felt that they were dark horses, and obviously Clare sort of went and turned them over. Like, I think if you're a Roscommon fan, you definitely don't want to be getting carried away either, because like last year, Roscommon looked brilliant in Division 2 and, looked very good throughout Connacht. Obviously got beat by Galway, but we all felt that they were a really, really good and up-and-coming team. When you look at the underage success that they've had as well, and some of the young lads they've introduced, and Ben O'Carroll and Keane McKeown still to come back from injury as well, Dara Craig. So like they have that balance between their older lads like Enda Smith and Connor Daly and Jeremy Murtha. They're still ticking away, they're still doing the business, they're still contributing, but they've got young lads coming up to support them as well. So yeah, I think when it comes to the Connacht Championship, like they do have a tough draw, and that might be an issue maybe. But at the same time, obviously with the All Ireland structure this year, like there's actually not that much of a reward for even winning Connacht anyway. So like they'll still go into the same group stage as everyone else. The only difference will be they won't be seeded. So like I'd give Roscommon a really, really good chance of doing something big this year. And look, even now, like you're thinking about it, they play Monaghan next week. Big opportunity to win that game. That'll be 4 from 4. When you look at this league, like Roscommon seem to be the only team that's really taken this league by the scruff of its neck. And
yeah, agreed.
Like they even have a 2-point gap over Mayo, so they can probably afford to lose a game and still reach a league final. So yeah, Roscommon are like they're in good steads at the minute.
But that was going to be my next question for you. If you were Davy Burke, like would you put everything into the league from now on? Like obviously they have Mayo, pretty much as soon as the league final would be finished. Like would you try power on and pick up that league? Because Roscommon, yes, while winning Connacht is a great achievement, Roscommon have done that. They've won Connacht, I think it's 3 times in the last 6 years or something like that. Like they've picked up a few now. And I think for Davy Burke, would it be something to try and win a Division 1 title, something that Roscommon haven't done in a long time? Or would you kind of try and keep one eye on the Connacht Championship coming up?
I think it's about rotation as well. Like you've seen, obviously, that Davy Burke has rotated at times. Like in the opening game against Tyrone, Enda Smith didn't start. Ben O'Carroll obviously started, made a big impact. Ben O'Carroll didn't start the last day, but Enda Smith started. So you can see he is rotating a little bit and trying different things out. And I don't think it's one of them things where it'll be a bonus if they get to a league final. But I don't think I wouldn't say that Davy Burke needs to put all his eggs in that basket, because like Roscommon don't need silverware, and like it would be great obviously if they can get to a league final and win it, and it'd be great for their fans. It'd be their first time, I think, since 1990 or 1989 or something since they've won the league. So like obviously that would be absolutely huge. But I think at the same time, like Roscommon fans, like if they were to get to a league final and win it, but then go out in the quarterfinals of the championship, although it would be, you'd look back and think the league was absolutely amazing, there will be that sense of, well, we still haven't progressed here, on from.
It would be like Waterford last year, I feel, in the hurling.
Exactly. And like the thing is as well, is like they play Mayo, I think, on the 2nd or 3rd last game. Looking at Mayo at the minute, they could also play them in the league final, and then they could also play them in as you said there, in the open weekend of the championship. So I think realistically there might be a bit of shadow boxing maybe in the final few games for Roscommon, but like I think the main thing for them was to stay up, and they've done that now.
Yeah, no, it's a massive achievement already by Davy Burke, and if I was him, I'd go for it, I think, because as you said, there's not that much on the line winning Connacht this year. You still go into the same groups. Speaking of the team that they will be seeing a lot of this year, Mayo 214 to 110. They beat Kerry in McHale Park in Castlebar. I have to say, I hold my hands up. Mayo have completely shown me up in this one. I thought maybe Kerry could get the better of them, especially when I saw Sean O'Shea and David Clifford in the squad. But Mayo absolutely stormed ahead, went 1-2 to no score up. Ryan O'Donoghue with the early goal, Jordan Flynn's beautiful point, and James Carr's goal. Like, because this guy, I mean, I started to think that this guy could only put the ball into the top corner, but what a finish this was, right down into the bottom corner of the Kerry net. That put them 2-7 to 2 points ahead. Tony Brosnan pointed just before half-time, 2-7 to 3 points. Like, I was coming in, I remember coming in and seeing the scoreline, because obviously I missed the start, but then I went back and watched it. I remember seeing the scoreline and being like, what is going on here? Like, I didn't expect Kerry to be that far off Mayo.
Yeah, like, I mean, you could look at Kerry's changes and everything else and think there would be a like a massive drop. But like at the same time, they still had their best fullback line available to them. Like both O'Sullivans played, Tom O'Sullivan and Graham O'Sullivan. Jason Foley played at fullback. Tyg Morley was in at centre back. Paul Murphy was out there. Fair enough, they didn't have their goalkeeper. Shane Ryan was on the bench, and still have Gavin White to come back. But like defensively, they still had their best team available to them, and Mayo cut them open time and time again. Like Ryan O'Donoghue, brilliant opening goal. James Carr, as you said there, like he's like, I remember when he burst onto the scene in 2019 when he scored that goal against Galway, and you were thinking this is the next big star that Mayo are about to produce. And like a few Mayo footballers under the James Horan era, he sort of just fell off a cliff, and you were sort of wondering what happened to him. But like he's come on leaps and bounds for Kevin McStay, and like when you actually look at Mayo and you look at Kevin McStay, like he's really improved a lot of these players even early on, and I think that's a big positive. Like James Carr, as we said, has come on leaps and bounds. Jordan Flynn looks like a sensational footballer. Like the power. Yeah, like the power and physicality of Flynn, like when he's running through, like nearly reminds me of a bit of a Kevin McManaman, the way he was just weaving in and out. Obviously, he's had the goals to his game, but like the points was absolutely sensational, and he's getting the best out of Aidan O'Shea as well, which we not many of us probably seen coming, and probably even most Mayo fans probably didn't want Aidan O'Shea in the squad this year. But you have to say it's working. And then I think the most impressive thing, actually, from a Mayo point of view, that's probably gone unnoticed has been their defence. Like when you think about it, Lee Keegan, Oisin Mullen, Robbie Hennelly, all not there, but they're defending brilliantly. Like they kept Kerry out, like conceded a consolation goal. David McBride has looked very good. Colm Reap has looked very good. So yeah, no, like from a Mayo perspective, considering the amount of changes in the summer, I'd be very positive now if I was a Mayo supporter.
Agreed. Like I think considering the start to the McStay era with Oisin Mullen going to Australia and Lee Keegan announcing his retirement, it was literally something out of a horror movie. But Aidan O'Shea, you're right, has looked absolutely brilliant in every game that he's played under McStay so far. I mean, he set up the case in point, Jordan Flynn's point to make it 2-10 to 4 points in the second half. That was all Aidan O'Shea, winning that ball, bouncing off a few Kerry lads, drawing defenders towards him, and then Flynn times the run perfectly and over the bar. The thing that I've been crying out for Mayo to do if they're putting Aidan O'Shea in a full forward is kick decent ball into him. Actually play a pass that he doesn't have to go and win. Play a pass to his chest. Because I'm sure both of us can agree. Do you remember that semi-final against Dublin in 2015 where Dublin had about 3 lads marking him? And Mayo just fired the ball into the clouds for him every time. And they just expected him to do it all on his own. Like that was... And then after it, they're saying, well, Aidan O'Shea, a full forward doesn't work. Like it's like, no, he can work. The ball you were giving to him was terrible. But the ball that Mayo were giving to Aidan O'Shea in this game against Kerry was excellent. And if they do that going forward, I think this can work. Yeah,
like he's got the height and strength advantage. And I think that the thing that maybe Mayo were sort of looking towards in the past was, as you said, there were, foreign balls into him that were often sort of looped balls and balloon balls, really, like not really good ball, as you said. And then relying on him, not just to catch it, but also score. But I think like with Aidan O'Shea, probably as he's gotten older, like he's probably not the most agile in terms of when he catches the ball, he's not quick and sharp, and he can't weave in and around the players just because of how he's built. But what he can do is if there's a player in front of him, a player to his left or his right, he can set them up quickly. And like the thing is, when he does get that ball, and I've always said this about Aidan O'Shea, he's very, very hard to dispossess. Like majority of the time, you have to end up fouling him because he's such a brilliant ball carrier and he's such a big man in terms of size that it's it's very, very hard for any player of any nature to actually try and stop him. And that's why in the past Dublin have often put 1 or 2 players there to try and stop when he has got the ball. But if he has the likes of James Carr, Ryan O'Donoghue beside him, and even a Tommy Conroy maybe to come back in, like sky's the limit really for Mayo in that sense. And like a lot of positives from a Mayo perspective in terms of Aidan O'Shea, because like there would have been a sense last year that he was leaving the team or coming to his last days, and we'll see what happens as the year goes on, whether they can keep doing this and whether that consistency stays there. But so far, like very, very impressive stuff.
Yeah, completely agree. And then obviously before we move on to Kerry, I completely agree with what you said about James Carr as well. Since he came in, I think James Carr, in terms of natural ability, in terms of talent, I think James Carr has the ability. This is a hot take, but I think he has the ability to be one of the top 5 forwards in the country. I think if you're talking pace, power, finishing ability, like look at the goals that this man has scored. Look at the points that he scored. He doesn't do it easy. And I'm thinking if you put him there and you trust him and you believe him, I think he could be absolute world beater.
Yeah, like he just needs to add that consistency and add a bit more output. And it's a strange one with James Carr. Like he's like at times he misses easy chances, but then
that's the other thing. Yeah,
he's scoring the hard chances. Do you know that way? Like
he's the type of player that would make you tear your hair out, but then would do something remarkable at the end of the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like he could maybe in like a comparison earlier with Darwin Núñez of Liverpool in some ways. Now I wouldn't say James Carr is missing as many sitters as he would be now with Liverpool, for example. But at the same time, he is when you look at his height, like he could put together a 30-second, 1 minute highlight reel of James Carr, and he'd look as good as David Clifford. Do you know what I mean? With some of his goals and some of his points. So yeah, and he's young as well. I think he's only 22, 23. So he's a young enough player. You know, physically, I'm sure he'll fill out as he gets a little bit older.
He's already a big lad. He's already
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I would agree. Like if he can add a bit more output, a bit more consistency, I think he'll I think he could kick on.
Sky's the limit, yeah, for sure. Obviously we knew going in at halftime, Seanie O'Shea and David Clifford are coming on, and this is the last point that we're going to make on this game. Is obviously a shout out to Barry O'Sullivan, who did get the Kerry goal at the end, but when David Clifford came on and when Sean O'Shea came on, it was I was just I know this sounds so stupid. I knew how good they were, but when David Clifford came on, it was ridiculous how good he was. I think his first 3 touches all ended in 3 points. It was what is this guy? He comes back on, first shot at the post, it doesn't even look like there's a shot on, and he swings it over the bar. Second touch, point. Third touch, point. Seanie O'Shea swings one over from an impossible angle with his weak left foot. The two of them just looked awesome when they came back in. And for Kerry, it's good knowing that they still haven't missed a beat.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, especially David Clifford. I mean, it was tough for Kerry to get them on the ball, I felt, in the second half. And it probably wasn't really until the final 15 to 20 minutes that we seen them do damage, mainly because they just weren't getting ball into them. But as you said there, as soon as Clifford got on the ball, no rustiness, still was weaving in and out, Mayo with 2 men close to him, and he was still finding space to get points. And yeah, it was mad, all right. The difference between Kerry having David Clifford and Sean O'Shea on the pitch compared to when they weren't on the pitch was night and day, absolute night and day. And I haven't always agreed with some of the criticism of Kerry that when they don't have Clifford and O'Shea, that they're, I know I've seen Joe Brawley before say that, Kerry without Clifford and Sean O'Shea wouldn't have won the All-Ireland, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's saying, if the sky was blue, if the sky was black, then we would never, you know what I mean?
It's but they did have them.
they did have them, and they
Argentina without Messi wouldn't have won the World Cup. Okay, cool, but
yeah, and they'll have these players back by the time the championship comes around, unless they get injuries. But what you would say though is if they do get injuries to those players, the drop off does seem to be quite a lot, and probably a lot stronger than I thought, to be honest. Yeah. I don't think Darragh Roach looked all right, but apart from that, Tony Brosnan, good player at club level, just not quite getting enough out of him. Donald O'Sullivan, all right, fair enough. He looked, he's only played 2 games. He looked very good against Monaghan. I think he was taken off at half time for David Clifford, so that that's fair enough. Killian Spillane not really putting his hands up. He's a player a lot of us are expecting to kick on. So outside of Clifford and O'Shea and maybe Paul Gainey, Kerry, they aren't quite getting enough out of their full forward line in terms of their scoring forwards. Mm-hmm. And even Paudie Clifford, I thought, was very, very quiet yesterday or Saturday. He wasn't really involved too much in the game. So Yeah, like few concerns there for Kerry, but I don't think they should be hitting the panic button just yet.
No chance. I mean, yeah, like once they have those two, they're fine. The funniest one of those comparisons of if someone wasn't there was the funniest one I heard someone say about the Dublin Kildare Leinster final. Well, if you take the 5 goals away, it's like, well,
Yeah.
the 5
Like if you
goals are there, buddy. Don't really think you can do that. Yeah, but I think even though Kerry lost, definitely some positive signs. And there's 2 spots that I believe will be open in the forward line over the next couple of years. I think Stephen O'Brien and Paul Gainey will retire over the next couple of years. I think Donald O'Sullivan and Dara Roach should be doing everything to make those positions theirs. The last game then in Division 1 is Galway versus Tyrone. Galway 16 points, Tyrone 13 points. Galway get their first victory of the Allianz League 2023. Without Shane Walsh, without Damien Comer, the first thing we have to talk about when we're talking about this game is the conditions were terrible. Like if you watched it on RTE, there was the whole camera was just, it would look like someone had smeared something on the camera before they started filming it. You could just see maroon or white jerseys just running around. You couldn't make out any players. Tyrone left themselves too wide of a gap to come back from. Galway won the game in a burst in the second half where they went 14 points to 8 ahead. Tyrone fought back. They hit 4 points in a row with Hampsey hitting the last one, but they just left it too late. And Galway pick up their first win.
Yeah, like as you said there, like with the conditions and even when I was watching on TG Cahir, like the deferred coverage, like it was a fairly uneventful game. It wasn't the best watch, to be honest. It wasn't really a great game, and I think a lot of that had to do with the conditions. But yeah, like I think Galway, although Tyrone maybe at different times fought back and got a couple of scores from Dara Canavan and obviously Padraig Hampsey got a point. Darren McCurry chipping away at different times. Like Galway, I felt looked very, very comfortable. And I think from a Galway perspective, like that was a big result, big win, because like not having Damien Comer, who's possibly going to be out for a while now. Obviously Shane Walsh not back just yet. A few players obviously playing Sigerson and everything else, and club commitments and everything sort of in the background. Galway probably not having their best start 15 available to them to get the victory. Huge. Like, and Matthew Tierney stepping up again with 6 points. Very good display from him. Good to see Ian Burke back on the side, Peter Cook back in the team. So a big result for Galway, because like they obviously hadn't won a game in their opening 2 matches, just 1 point, 1 draw. If they had lost this, you would have been looking at it and thinking, they would have been 3 points behind Tyrone, and behind Monaghan as well. Like they would have been bottom of the league, and that would have been a big worry. So that's why I think this was a huge result at home. Just gives them that bit of breathing space in terms of a relegation battle, and certainly now they can start looking, I suppose, onwards and upwards from now on.
Yeah, agreed. They're not looking over their shoulder anymore. I think another player, you're absolutely right about Matthew Tierney. I think he led the way in the absence of Shane Walsh, in the absence of Damien Comer. Another one that was very, very strong, I thought, Cathal Sweeney, when he came on, he looked very, very good. He kicked Galway's last point. That was a beauty to make it 16 points to 9. That was in the spell where Galway hit 6 points in a row in 13 minutes to win the game. And that was the spell that won them the game, because obviously Tyrone then hit the last 4 points. Wasn't enough to pull it back. Another player I thought who impressed me, Sean Kelly, again, brilliant point to make it 13 points to 8, drove through the Tyrone defence, one of those powerful runs that he goes on. And I think having Peter Cook back in the panel, this is a huge boost to Galway this year.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and you see the difference he makes, like in that side. Like, it's interesting to see sort of where they're playing him. Like, obviously they're kind of playing him in a half forward line, whereas previously, like, he'd kind of be the man in midfield when he would have played for Galway and Mike Cullen. But obviously Galway have a lot of very good midfielders. I mean, you've got Paul Conroy and Killian McDade in midfield, so you've got to maybe try find Peter Cook a position into the side. But he looked very good. He was very impressive, and like I think Galway, when they do get Shane Walsh back, Damien Comer back, like they have a very, very good squad. Tom O'Callaghan still's come back from injury as well. So like Galway in terms of squad looking very, very good. And as you said, like Cathal Sweeney, very good 3 points, coming off the bench. Another young player to make an impact. So things are looking good for Galway in terms of their squad. And I think getting that opening victory was crucial.
Agreed, 100%. So yeah, that's Division 1 wrapped up. Now we're going to move to Division 2. And Dublin breathe. 18 points to 210. We escape Cork with the 2 points. Obviously, that last shot by Brian Hurley. I mean, your live stream was interesting watching yourself and Matthew watch that with 2 different lenses on that moment.
Yeah, like it was it was mad, all right. Like, I mean, because certainly watching it, like, or whatever, like, I think we both nearly expected the game to be a lot more one-sided to Dublin, or, you know, Dublin maybe to sort of, you know, Cork to put up a bit of a fight and then Dublin to pull away and win by 6 or 7 points. And at one stage in the game, it looked like that was going to happen because, you know, Cork went down to 14 men, which, you know, we'll obviously get onto. It was a criminal decision, obviously, for that second yellow card for Ian Maguire. And Dublin pulled away and took advantage and had a 5-point lead. And you were looking at it and thinking, there's no way Cork are going to come back. But then Lee Gannon gets sent off, another controversial red card. And that sort of evened it up. And Cork just got that momentum after that. Brian Hurley started finding a bit more space again. I thought Chris O'Jones had a very good game from a Cork perspective. Like he was, you know, he set up the first goal. He also set up another goal, which was ruled out for a square ball, which again was one of them where it was like his foot was on the line, but like it was very, very close, you know. And we've seen umpires and refs like give that before, so I mean it was very, very close, and I think Cork were a little bit harshly done by there. And they just didn't quite have the look. Like even Brian Hurley, he missed that chance by hitting the post, but there was a couple of minutes previously where he went through on goal, and it was probably the easiest point he could have kicked in his life, but he put it miles wide. And I think that was just pressure because he realised right there that he's the opportunity to level this game up, and Cork have a serious chance of beating Dublin for the first time, I think, since 2014 or 2015 in the league. So it would have been a huge, huge moment. And Dublin massively got away with it. Like there was even a goal-mouth scramble before the Brian Hurley goal, and then like Dublin were on the counter attack, and Colin Basquel put it wide. Like Dublin,
my God, that one was. I was like, what is he doing?
Yeah, like he had so many options there. Like he could have set someone else up for a goal. Like Conor O'Callaghan was right in front of him. Could have set him up for a goal. Could have kept the ball. So yeah, like from a Dublin perspective, like there's a lot of worrying trends there that were there last year that are still there this year. Like again, defensively been cut open. We've seen that happen time and time again last year in the league. And you know it's happened. Like we've conceded 3 goals now in 3 matches. 3 goals in the last 2 games, you know, against Limerick and Cork.
And in the Kildare game, Kildare should have got a goal as well.
Yeah, like I think O'Hanlon hit an effort onto the post, I remember.
From Archibald, yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose speaking of David O'Hanlon though, like I think he's putting himself in now as the number 1. Like I think he's nailing that position.
You don't think Comerford's coming back?
I don't know. Like I think between O'Hanlon and Evan Comerford, like it was like there wasn't too much. I thought Comerford's distribution was a lot better in terms of kickouts, but I always felt that in terms of shot stopping, like it was fairly even really before the game. And I always felt that like Comerford does seem to have a bit of a mistake or two in him. We kind of seen that last year. And O'Hanlon's made 1 or 2 errors here or there, but I thought it was fairly even between the two. But looking at O'Hanlon yesterday, like that save from Brian Hurley, like hitting that onto the post, like unbelievable save. He makes a big save in the first half as well from Chris O'Jones. So made some big saves and some big moments. And I thought he was Dublin man of the match yesterday.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Talk to me about the actual goals though, the ones that Cork converted. The first one from Owen McSweeney in the 22nd minute, and then the second one, what a finish by Matty Taylor in the 54th minute.
Yeah, like 2 brilliant finishes, but like obviously Chris O'Jones wins the ball, sets it up for Owen McSweeney. Like it was just too easy for Cork to cut right through us, and even that second goal from Matthew Taylor as well, like just far too easy. Like we seem to always have this, like we seem to leave the square area free a lot of the time, and our full back line just pushes out, and we just leave that space for players to run into, and we don't seem to be able to get challenges in or sort of cover off that space. You know, like we've seen it time and time again from Armagh against Dublin last year. Kerry were doing it, and like in the first half, Cork were just like that diagonal ball into Chris O'Jones, like every time Cork went long into that area of the field, Dublin were just having all sorts of problems. And Keane Murphy, I thought, was struggling big time with Chris O'Jones in that corner. And every time he got the ball, you felt like Cork had a goal opportunity. And that is worrying from a Dublin perspective, because people will say it's only the league and it's early days, but we seen that last year in the league, and fair enough, we defended a lot better against Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final the more the game went on. But I just think a lot of naivety there, and like Dublin playing with fire a good bit. I think we will be good enough to get out of Division 2, but looking at it so far, the games against Cork and Kildare have been a lot closer than I expected, and you could make a case that Kildare and Cork should have beat us in both games. And I think if we had 2 defeats and a win versus Cork or win versus Limerick, I think our conversation right now will be a lot different.
Oh, 100%. This is one of those things where you can't just ignore the worrying signs because Dublin have won on paper. And that's one of the things that annoys me so much about analysis sometimes in sport, is the analysis is fully based off the results. So if a player takes a shot and it goes wide, oh, he shouldn't have taken the shot. Or if he takes a shot and it goes over, oh, what a decision, what bravery. It's like, no, it's either the right decision to take the shot or it's the wrong decision to take the shot. Like, it's one of those two. And I think with Dublin, we should have been beaten by Cork and we should have been beaten by Kildare. I think if a better side had been playing us in Croke Park that night than Kildare, I think they would have put us to the side. I think honestly, if it had been a Roscommon, even the form that they're in, they would have cracked on for home. Dublin are vulnerable. They're there for the taking. Obviously, there's a couple more points I want to make about this game, but we can't talk about this game and not talk about the red cards. And I have a video here of the red cards. We're going to look at them real quick, and then we'll talk about them. So here are the 2 red cards.
The first one, now it had already been noted, and I think the referee came over with two fingers up to say this is the second time. Harsh. Likewise, okay, that's a foul, and the referee can say, he can go by the letter of the law and say, I'm right to give him a second note, and that means a second.
So we'll stop there. That's obviously the first one for Ian Maguire. Like, particularly the second one. Is that ever a yellow card?
No, definitely not. And even I've seen the yellow card back a couple of times, and I've seen the referees, I've seen him smiling a little bit as he's given the I don't know, it was a bizarre decision. Yeah. I think it was probably one of the worst decisions that we've possibly ever seen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I saw them getting around them, and I have to say, because I watched this in the pub with a few of my friends, and I seen it happen, and I genuinely thought, okay, I think what was going on is that he booked the wrong player or something. I thought, honestly, because it was such a commotion around the ref about him giving a yellow card. And I was like, you don't really see that in the GAA around a yellow card unless it's so obviously wrong.
Yeah, and even originally I was thinking, did he say something to the referee, or because he didn't immediately give him a yellow. It wasn't like he just gave him a yellow straight away.
He gave him a yellow as he was walking away. Yeah, that's why you can see Maguire turn around and being like, what?
Yeah, there was about a 5 to 10 second period where and even Maguire, he looks annoyed first of all when he makes the challenge, but that's just because he's giving away the foul, and Dean Rock, as we know, is going to put that one over all day long. So. Yeah, it was a bizarre decision, because even with that, I was even saying yesterday, Dean, I think Dean Rock even wanted to carry on. He had an opportunity to
I don't
score.
think Dean Rock noticed that his jersey been pulled.
No, ref could have just played advantage. He could have put it over the bar, and that was it. And I think the League Annan won with the second yellow again. Don't think it was.
We have the League Annan one here. Let's look at the League Annan one.
Just look at the reaction here. He knows himself that I'm never sent off for this here, or I wouldn't be getting the second yellow. So it was disappointing to see that.
And I think that the second one really, we kind of, when they went off the ball, we reckoned the referee was going to level it up. I think League Annan lays off the ball. I think he expects Sean Powter's coming in, and he's just standing his ground. And in typical fashion, it's going to be evened up. But the first Ian Maguire's one was a appalling decision, really.
I mean, there you go. I think the point that Kieran Whelan makes is spot on. I think Lee Gannon is giving off the hand pass. He just sees Sean Powter coming towards him. Like, me and you have both played GAA, and I played to this day. When a player's running at you, you tense up. You're expecting the player to come and hit your shoulder. Like, that's all Lee did there. He wasn't like Sean Powter just pulled out of the shoulder last minute. He decided he wasn't going to do it, but Lee's still ready for it. And that's all that happened there. Like, I think even then the ref with the little smile, it's like he knew that was going to cause some shit. Like, I don't know. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, like I don't know. Yeah, it was a strange one, all right. Like, and did he recognize maybe that he made a big mistake for the first one, and now he's thinking, like, because we see this all the time in Premier League football, and so a lot of the time we see it in the GAA as well. Probably not so much in the GAA, but you'd see a referee make a bad decision, and then all of a sudden he makes another bad decision the other way, but it's to sort of even it out. And I haven't always believed that referees do that. Like, I don't think they actually think like that, but like, it does happen a lot of the time, and it could have been a case here where he's looking at it and thinking, well, here's a chance to rectify my mistake earlier and make it a more fair game. But yeah, like, it was mad. Like, with Lee Gannon, like, it's clearly just he's clearly just defending himself. It's like anything, if anyone runs up to you in any walk of life, you're gonna defend yourself. Like, you're gonna try something to defend yourself, and on a Gaelic football pitch, that's the common thing, So yeah, it was bizarre. Like, probably the fact that Sean Powter went down a bit too easily as well, and I think that made the decision for the referee. I don't think it was that strong of a shoulder that he had to go down as easily.
It wasn't, and it was shoulder to shoulder as well.
Yeah, so
it wasn't like he shouldered him in the chest or in the back, or like he hit him square on shoulder to shoulder.
No, yeah, like it's mad. Like, and yeah, like I suppose, like, the bizarre thing is you could say the referee was being consistent, if anything. But then again, like, I think if he was to be consistent, he could have gave more yellow cards. He could have. There was James McCarthy got a yellow card for absolutely nothing. Like, but then there was
the one where O'Callaghan just started on him. Yeah, like,
yeah.
What is McCarthy supposed to do in that instance? Just take a smack and just do nothing.
Exactly, exactly. Like how many times do we see referees just cop out and give a yellow each way? But then as well, like, there was another incident where I think McCarthy pulled the player back, and I remember thinking, I was like, oh, that I think that actually could be a yellow card, so he could actually go here. And then the referee did nothing. And I was like, wow, that would have been one where if he gave the yellow because he prevented a clear scoring opportunity, so either a black or a yellow, which would have resulted in a red, and he did nothing. So it was it was a strange performance from the referee. Like, obviously we've seen a lot of people going mad at him on Twitter and everything, and like, I don't agree with that, but I do think at the same time, like, officials do need to be called out for bad errors like that, because we want to make sure that this doesn't happen in big games such as All-Ireland semi-finals or All-Ireland finals. Like, the game yesterday, like, the results, we'll see. It might be a bit inconsequential in terms of how the league ends up, but at the same time, yeah, just some very, very poor decisions there.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Before we move off this game, two last points that I want to make. Obviously, the return of Jack McCaffrey, absolutely fantastic. That point that he got, like, just reminding us all just how good he is. And then, if you were in the Cork camp, how would you feel after this game? But start with the Jack McCaffrey one.
Yeah, like, I think seeing McCaffrey back, like, it was brilliant. It was just brilliant to see him go out there, and like, you were sort of wondering, is he still going to have that same Jack McCaffrey-esque sort of explosiveness? And I think there was one moment where he goes past two players and pops it over the bar, and I think, to be honest, that was my highlight of the game. Like, just that moment, like, just seeing that, like, I nearly wanted to celebrate that as if it was a goal, because it was like he's still got it. Like, he's still got it even after 4 years. And he's still a young chap. Like, he's bound to still have it. But sometimes you just don't know when a player's been away for so long and you haven't seen them play. But yeah, like, I thought he was absolutely outstanding. What was your second question again? Sorry.
How would you feel if you were in the Cork camp after that?
Yeah, like when I was speaking to, like, obviously I had Matthew on the show doing a watch along yesterday, and when I spoke to him straight after the game, like, you could tell he was fairly deflated and disappointed. But then when I spoke to him a little bit later for the review show, there was he was a lot more positive then. So like it was definitely a case of a big missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And those opportunities probably don't come around too often for Cork. But at the same time, there is a lot of positives in terms of how Brian Hurley played, like really, really strong performance. Stephen Sherlock was a weird one. Like he didn't have a good game at all. And I think he was taken off at half time. So I don't know if there was an injury there. But considering as well, they have a lot of players who are playing Sigerson with UCC, Cathal O'Mahony and a few others. Like there's Daniel O'Mahony as well. Like they've things are looking good for Cork. But it's just that same old thing with Cork where them playing well against Dublin, Kerry against some good sides. We see them do this time and time again.
Yeah.
But then they go out and play, like they're playing Limerick next week, and it would probably be the most Cork thing ever to somehow not win that game. Yeah. So, like it's about beating the teams they should be beating now as well, because clearly we can see they have the ability to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll move on then to Dublin's direct rival for the Division 2 title. Derry 2-15, Meath 1-7. I mean, like, I watched this game. This was just, Derry blew Meath away. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, like if this was a boxing match, it would have been stopped after 5 or 6 minutes. Like I think Colm O'Rourke would have had to throw the towel in.
Yeah.
It was just
TKO.
An absolute... Yeah, like it was just an absolute domination. I mean, like Derry were 10 points up, I think, at half time. And like the funny thing is, I think Derry can play better as well. Like that's the funny thing. I don't even think they were at their brilliant best. It was just far, far too easy for them. And they just looked streets ahead. Like I thought with Meath, it was a little bit naive the way they were playing. Like they kept kicking balls into that Derry back line. Like that's dinner all day long, for a Derry side. They're going to eat that up all day long. Like, and Meath just struggled. Like, and conditions were tough. Probably not used to playing that level of opposition week in, week out. So it was a massive, massive reality check. And they couldn't create on Meath. Like they only had 3 scoring chances in the first half. They actually had 100% accuracy, funny enough, in the first half. So yeah, it was very, very poor from them. But for Derry, like they were excellent, absolutely excellent. Like Noel Toner, brilliant second goal. Paul Cassidy looks like a very good, younger lad to come into the side. Eden Doherty, very good as performance from him. And
goal after 48 seconds.
Yeah, and that seems to be a common theme with Derry. Like I don't know how many times they've got the opening goal. A goal's been their opening score of the game. Like happened in the Ulster final. I think it happened against Tyrone as well. Like it's such a common thing for Derry, and like it probably is a good tactic because it's probably the least time when defenders and players are actually expecting the opposition to go for a goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, like very, very, very strong performance for Derry, and maybe on form, you'd have to say Derry are going to be a very tough team to beat this year.
Yeah, and for Dublin going away to Owen Beg, that's the toughest fixtures that you could get in Division 2, I think. Obviously then, like for me, Derry's defence was always going to be the difficult one. I had Sean Ryan from the GAA room, obviously big shout out to him, on for a preview of the weekend's action, and we were both saying, look, Meath have had 2 good wins, but if you actually look points-wise, they only put up 8 points against Clare. They just got the 4 goals, which got them clear. And we were saying, you will not get 4 goals against Derry. You will not get 4 goals against Derry. They are too good at the back. And Meath are going to have to score more points than they have been scoring, and they didn't. They only managed 7 points in this game. And obviously the goals did not come. And for Derry, as if they don't have a good enough defence already, they found another gem there. Owen McAvoy, teenage fullback. He's only 19. And like he scored a beautiful point, as well as, again, hugely impressing in defence. Yeah,
and you have to credit Rory Gallagher as well. Like he's not afraid, is he, to mix it up and throw in young players. Like you're seeing, like I think Owen McAvoy was part of that minor All-Ireland winning squad for Derry a couple of years ago. I think Lakeland Murray was involved as well. So like he's not, like he's not afraid to just like throw them in. Like most, you look at Tyrone, for example, and there's a bit of a hesitancy to play Rory Canavan, to play Conor Cush, and sometimes it's good to have that hesitancy because you don't want to put too much risk on younger players' shoulders, and you don't want to, overburn them, especially when they have club commitments, they have Sigerson and everything else. And I think player welfare has maybe been a topic that's been mentioned with Derry a couple of times with Conor Glass. But look, if the players want to play and they're fit to play, then play them, you know, and you know, Owen McAvoy, excellent. Paul Cassidy as well, very good. So, like, the fact that, like, because you would look at it and think, like, Chrissy McCaig, these lads, like, maybe they have been around the block a while, but Derry are finding players to come in to potentially replace them in the long term, and they're getting a lot of depth in their squad. And yeah, like, I think Derry, like, they'd be worth a punt for an All-Ireland, in my opinion. I think they really, really would be, because the only worry would be if they burn out with the fact they're going so strong week in, week out, and that they get some sort of injuries. And by the time, because Ulster is going to be very intense, it always is intense. And even though the provincial titles won't maybe matter as much in terms of the All-Ireland series, still think it means a lot for Derry to defend their crown. So, yeah, that would be the only worry. But, like, Derry are, like, I think Derry and Roscommon have been probably the two most impressive teams so far in the country this year.
Yeah, agreed. And for Meath, look, it's the first defeat under Colin O'Rourke, but look, dust themselves down. Nobody really expected them to win that game. So just dust yourselves down, come back stronger for the next game. Another must-win game took place over the weekend. That was Clare, 15 points, Kildare, 16 points. Now, I did predict that Kildare would win this game, but I have to say, you know, going into the last quarter, 47 minutes, Clare were 6 points up. And I have to say, I really thought Kildare are in big trouble here of going down. They're in big trouble of missing out on a place in the All-Ireland, which is, you know, absolutely inconceivable. You think that Kildare aren't taking part in the All-Ireland, but they fought back. They really fought back. On top of that, Ben McCormack had been sent off, but they fought back, and then right at the death, they hit the last 4 points in a row from David Hyland, Daniel Flynn, and Neil Flynn got 2 of them, and that got them over the line. On top of that, to add in a bit of crazy into it, the Clare goalkeeper, Stephen Ryan, was black carded, and Emmett McMahon had to hop and goal. I mean, you can't write that. But for Kildare, a massively important game to win, and they won it, although, again, in weird circumstances. They've had a weird league.
They have, but they have, all right. Like, I mean, yeah, it must, as a Kildare fan, you're probably looking and thinking, thank God we won the game. But geez, they pull this very, very close. Like, the fact they're playing Derry next week, you know, this weekend, like, that's, you know, like, if they had lost this, I think they would have been gone. I think it would have been curtains for them, to be honest. So, like, this might be their biggest win of the year. Like, you know, like, when you actually look at it, and as you said, like, that will serve them well, though. Like, the fact they found that within themselves, they're a man down. Fair enough, obviously the black card even things up for the final, like 3 or 4 minutes, but they were a man down for large parts, and then they hit 4 points in injury time. Like, that's tremendous amount of bottle to get through that. And Ennis is always a tough place to go. So, like, you have to give Kildare a lot of credit there for getting that win and getting over the line. Like, in saying that, like, it is a bit worrying with Kildare at the same time, because they haven't quite kicked on the way we would have thought at the start of the year. And it'll be interesting to see how they get on next week against Derry. Like, you certainly wouldn't rule them out of the relegation battle. Like, it's only their first win of the season, and they still have, you know, some tough games to play. But yeah, like, a huge result to come out of it. Like, I did see on Twitter and on social media, like, a lot of Clare fans weren't too happy with the referee, and I didn't see any highlights on Allianz League Sunday. So I didn't really get to see too much of it. But, like, generally speaking, a lot of the fans were very upset. Could that maybe, like, I heard the same thing when Clare played Louth earlier in the year, and Clare hit a couple of late points. So was this a case of it even itself out? I'm not too sure, but yeah, massive result for Kildare.
Yeah, no doubt. And then just before we leave this game behind us, for Clare, then obviously you're talking, they go away to Dublin next. Don't really expect them to win that game. Yes, I expect them to play well, cause some problems, but I don't expect them to win. And that means that they've only beaten Louth on the opening day, then lost back-to-back to Meath and Kildare. If they lose to Dublin next, which I expect them to, are they potentially going to end up in that 6th place spot, and then potentially, at best, end up in that 6th place spot and miss out on the All-Ireland?
Possibly, yeah. Like, it's going to be interesting, all right, sort of seeing how it all pans out. But yeah, because, like, their final 2 away games are away to Dublin and Derry. I can't see them getting anything from those 2 games. I think looking at Dublin's vulnerability, I think Clare will give it a game, and they'll probably have more of a chance of beating Dublin than Derry at the minute, realistically. But in saying that, it would be a massive shock and it would be a huge upset. And you'd like to think Dublin will have learned from the last, 2 close encounters. And then you're looking at it, their home matches, which are against Limerick on the final day, but they also play Cork in 2 weeks' time. So like the next 3 games are against Dublin, Cork, and Derry. Like 3 very, very strong games. Like if they don't get anything out of those games, they might, by the time they play Limerick, they might already be gone, So like depending on how results go. So yeah, like we've always sort of associated Clare as one of those teams that find a way in Division 2 and are usually quite safe. But like you'd be watching on a bit anxiously now as a Clare fan, because that Cork game in 2 weeks is crucial, because that could be the game, I think, that maybe decides their fate.
Yeah, I agree. Then of course the last game in Division 2, Louth 115, Limerick 113. Obviously this was a must-win game for both sides, and Louth won it. It was in RD. They got the victory. Obviously the goal coming for Louth from Daniel Corcoran. Limerick got the goal from Brian Donovan. But for Louth, this is a huge victory because, look, they played really, really well against Clare and they played really well against Derry. They hung in that game for long, long periods. Niall Toner's goal was the difference between the two sides. But they kept up their levels and they beat Limerick again. Replay of the Division 3 final last year, same result.
Yeah, like, and again, probably in similar fashion, like Limerick at times looked like maybe they could come away with the win. And that would have been a big sort of upset looking at the balance of play of the division so far. But yeah, like Darragh McConnon, looks like another sort of good addition to the Louth side. Samuel Roy doing the businesses as per usual. So a huge result, and like it probably, like I think Louth and Kildare play each other, sort of in towards the end of the league. That could be a big game. But yeah, like you'd look at it and think it's probably going to be between Louth, Clare, and Kildare, sort of for the final 2 safe spots. Limerick are probably going to get cut adrift now. Like score difference is quite poor as well. And it's not too much of a slight on Limerick. I think, Josh Ryan's obviously injured. It's new management. It's a very tough division. You're seeing Kildare struggle. You're seeing Cork struggle at times. Division 2 is probably the strongest it's been in a long time this year. Agreed. So, yeah, like I think for Limerick, like even going into the Tailteann Cup, I think probably would be better for them as well, realistically. So I think the main thing for them is just try to be competitive as they can in every game,
No, I completely agree. So that is Division 2 wrapped up. Now we're going to move to Division 3. The first game, and the game that definitely stood out, was the clash of the Ulster rivals, and Fermanagh got the job done, winning by 2-14 to Downs 3-10. Sean Quigley's last-minute goal blows the promotion race in Division 3 wide open. There are now 4 teams that are on 4 points. Westmeath, Offaly, Down, and Fermanagh. I mean, Cavan are clear on 6 points, 3 wins out of 3. But Quigley's goal, I think, has shook up the entire division.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and obviously a dramatic late goal. And how many times have we said Sean Quigley's been the man to get a late goal and sort of, drag them out of the dirt. But like in fairness to Fermanagh, like they are getting other players, who are contributing as well, like Ryan Lyons with 3 points, Darragh McGurn, who I done an interview with a couple of years ago when he was sort of a young up and coming player. Like it's great to see him sort of really establishing himself now in a full forward, and 4 points, in this game. He was great against Longford a couple of weeks ago as well. So yeah, big result. And I think for Down, like I haven't quite agreed with a lot of people who've been saying, Down are like comparing Down to sort of Derry when Derry were in Division 3, and sort of saying like Down's re-rise is here, and all of a sudden all their problems are fixed now because they've got a good young and up and coming manager. Like there's a lot of legwork still to be done for Down. Like they barely got over the line against Antrim. The Tipperary game was in the balance going into the final couple of minutes, and now they've obviously lost this game. So like I think for Down, like they're not quite as far ahead as many people would have expected. And this will certainly be a bit of a reality check for them.
Yeah, without doubt. The other game that happened that makes that the 4 teams on 4 points was Westmeath against Offaly. It finished Westmeath 2-12, Offaly 12 points. A very, very strong second half for Westmeath was the difference between the two sides. Kieran Martin's introduction on the 49th minute, and then in the 61st minute, he boxes in Westmeath's second goal, and they end up going on to win the game by 6 points. That's a big win for Westmeath, because I feel like, look, Offaly had looked good, but for Westmeath, considering the fact that they are going to compete in the All-Ireland, this is the type of game they need to be winning.
Yeah, like, and I remember from having a look on Scorpio as well, like Offaly were, 4 or 5 points up at one point in the game. And you're kind of thinking like this will be a huge result for Offaly in their hunt for promotion. But no, big response for Westmeath. They showed that experience that they have from playing through these games, from playing these type of games. And John Heslin again getting 1-4, Ronan O'Toole with 2 points, and obviously with Down being beat, like, it puts Westmeath back into second spot and back into a firm grasp of promotion. So big result for Westmeath. For Offaly, like they've obviously a lot of moving parts, and younger lads coming in, players coming back from injury like Keane Farrell and whatnot. So a bit of a disappointment one from them that they couldn't hang on, but I think we'd all expect Westmeath to kick on and get out of this division, and this is a big result in doing so.
Yeah, no, agreed, 100%. The next game then in Division 3, poor David Power with Tipperary. I mean, his team keeps changing game after game. They lost this one to Andy McEntee's Antrim, the first victory for Antrim under Andy McEntee, and their first victory of the league in 2023. It finished Antrim 119, Tipperary 14 points. But just to put it into perspective, Aaron, every year at the start of the year, myself and Luke do out like our teams that we would play. If every team had their best players available to them, if every team had all their players come back from Australia, from traveling, from being abroad, from being injured, they had everybody available, fit and available. For Tipperary, they only have 3 players that we said we would start in the Tipperary team. We said we'd put Evan Comerford in goal. He's not there. Yeah. Kevin Fahey, Jimmy Feehan, and Shane O'Connell are all there in the full back line. We said we put Bill Maher. He wasn't there for this game. Colin O'Riordan wasn't there. Robbie Kiley's retired. Stephen O'Brien and Liam Casey. Stephen O'Brien is injured. Don't know where Liam Casey is currently. Josh Keane, Jason Lonergan, and Mark Russell in the half-forward line. None of them played. Sean O'Connor is injured. Connor Sweeney's injured. And Michael Quinlivan isn't with the panel this year. I mean, that just puts it into perspective, just how many players aren't currently playing for Tipperary.
Yeah, like, and you'd wonder, like, why, like, I know Mickey Quinlivan was traveling for a good couple of years, but he was very involved with Clonmel commercials. So you'd wonder, like, why does he not want to play for Tipperary? Like, is there something more going on there that we just don't know about? Like, obviously Colin O'Riordan's away at the AFL. There's a few players there that you mentioned that, like, we just don't know where they are. We don't know if they're injured or what the sort of scenario is there. And the Connor Sweeney injury was huge. Like, not to be having him. And like another player as well, Sean O'Connor. Don't know if you mentioned him.
Yeah, like, I did. He'd be in the forward line. He's injured. He's a massive loss.
Yeah, like him as well. Like, he's another big loss. So like Tipperary are just struggling massively, and it's looking bad for them. Like, it really is. Like, I think a lot of people look at Antrim as a team to be nailed on relegated, and like Antrim have just completely turned them over. But like, fair play to Antrim. Like, you have to give them a lot of credit. They've done a lot better this year than I expected. Like, I didn't really understand the Andy McEntee appointment, to be honest, with Antrim.
Yeah, me neither.
Didn't really get it completely. I thought like they were shifting away from a very defensive side under Enda McGinley and moving into more of an attacking side, and I just thought it wasn't going to work. But look, like, they scored 217 against Down, and now they've scored 119 in this game, and fair play to them. Like, they've given themselves a real chance of possibly staying up. And like Roy Murray, Rory McCann, Pat Shivers all getting on the score sheet. Mark Jordan at wing back scoring 3 points. So yeah, like, for Antrim, like fair play to them. And look, at like, if they stay up, I think it would be a huge achievement for Andy McEntee.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, impressive victory nonetheless. But Tipperary, my God, they need to get their players back in the panel, because they are staring down the barrel of a relegation. Speaking of staring down the barrel of a relegation, the last game Longford slip to their third consecutive defeat in Division 3. Cavan get their third consecutive victory to finish. Cavan 119, Longford 11 points. For Cavan, got the job done. The first half goal from Seamus Brady set them right on their way. And for Longford now, the signs aren't looking good.
No, definitely not. Like, and it's 2 games in a row now where Cavan have finished with 119, and yeah, like, I mean, they're getting so much scores like all across the pitch, and even in this game, like, they didn't even have Paddy Lynch, like, he came on in the second half, but he didn't start. So, like, with Cavan, like, fair play, like, because the last year in the league, even though they got promoted in Division 4, there was times they looked a little bit flat, but they're put, like, they've won all 3 games very, very convincingly, and it hasn't really been any doubt. And like, Seamus Brady's been sensational, 1-3 from him. Darren McVeety, what a return, having him back on the side. And yeah, for Longford, like they've had 2 tough games, in fairness, Westmeath and Cavan. Like, you probably wouldn't have expected Longford to get anything out of those games anyway. And look, for Manor doing very well. So 3 very tough games for them, but they need to get a win soon, otherwise Division 4 is coming.
Yeah, well, for me, they have to beat Tipperary and they have to beat Antrim, and if they don't beat them, they're down. Because I can see the difference is with Antrim, in the games that Antrim lost, they've been competitive. Longford have been beaten out the gate in their 3 games. They haven't looked like winning at all. So yeah, it's not looking good unless they can turn the corner very quickly. Moving down to Division 4, then the first game in Division 4 that we're going to look at is Wexford 19 points, Leitrim 15 points. And I have to say, this one kind of surprised me a bit. I thought Leitrim were going to win. I thought, look, Andy Moran and his side coming to Wexford Park with good momentum, a pitch as well where London got a draw there. So I was thinking, well, Leitrim can go one better. I think Leitrim are going to win. It's definitely a setback for them. No doubt they're chasing promotion under Andy Moran. And for Wexford, I mean, massive shout out to Mark Rossiter, 8 points from him. They hit, I have it here. At 64 minutes, it was 14 points each. And then Wexford hit 5 of the last 6 points to get the victory. And I mean, that shows it, that just in that last 10 minutes, that last 15 minutes, Wexford pushed for home.
Yeah, like, and it's such a strange one with Wexford, because like we've been saying for years that quality wise, they have a lot of very good players, and Mark Rossiter, Ben Brosnan still knocking around. And they've got a good, like, club level is quite strong. When you look at Shell Malarias and some of the other sort of good clubs there. So you're looking at Wexford thinking like they should be making a push to get out of Division 4, but they're just such an inconsistent team. I mean, they came away from London with a draw, a couple of weeks ago, couldn't get anything from that game, and now they've gone and beaten a promotion chaser in Leitrim, and they're going away to Waterford next week, and Waterford are the last team to beat Wexford. They're just such an inconsistent side. You never know what you're going to get with them, but a big result, and it puts them, they're on 3 points, so it puts them back into the hunt for promotion. You'd imagine they'll be thereabouts, and yeah, I suppose from a Leitrim point of view, just a big setback from them. Like, obviously their first defeat of the year does kind of allows Wexford to get a grasp as well, but I suppose for Andy Moran and Leitrim probably shows that they're not maybe as far as long as they would have thought, but I think the story has to go to Wexford.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Speaking of promotion chasing teams, Sligo 21 points, Waterford 12 points. Sligo get back-to-back wins now, so they've recovered after the defeat to Laois on the opening day. But I have to say, Waterford going to Markovich Park, I never liked it as a game for them. I thought Sligo could potentially put a beating on Waterford here. They won by 9 points. Sean Carabine led the way, 4 points in the first half for him. He carried on scoring in the second half. He's an outstanding player. Niall Murphy and Cian Lally also pointed in as Sligo kind of coasted home to victory. Waterford's best spell of the game was in the third quarter. Conor Murray led the way as they hit 4 points in a row. That saw them reduce the gap to 5. But Sligo simply just had too much quality for them.
Yeah, I mean, and look, fair play to Waterford. Like, they actually made a bit of a game out of this. And a lot of us have been saying that, Waterford have been cut adrift quite heavily, and they're probably at the same standard of Kilkenny football. But I wouldn't agree with that. Like, I think, it's just been a case of, they are quite a bit behind, but I wouldn't put them as low down as that. And considering they're playing probably one of the top teams in this division, for them to be as competitive as they were, I think that's that gives them a lot of positives. But big result for Sligo. I mean, we all expected them to win, and I think anything other than a win would have been a huge shock, and probably the shock of the weekend. And as you said, like Sean Caraboyne with a couple of points there, Noel Murphy looking quite good. So a big result for Sligo.
Yeah, no, agreed. Speaking of teams chasing the top of the table, Laois stay there. 3 wins out of 3 for Billy Sheehan's men. They went away to Carlow in Cullen Park and won by 117 to 2 goals and 8 points. Paul Kingston hitting a goal and 10. That was a massive shout out. He was outstanding for Laois. And yeah, 3 out of 3 for Billy Sheehan's men.
Yeah, and it was an eventful final couple of minutes as well, because there was a couple of red cards. I think Evan O'Carroll was sent off. I think one of the Carlow players was sent off as well. Paddy Kingston got a goal late on. So there was a kind of a bit of a mental finish between these two. But look, Carlow were fairly competitive. There was only 1 or 2 points in it going into the final couple of minutes before that late goal from Paddy Kingston. So fair play to Carlow. They really did make a game out of it. They made it competitive. And we were looking at Carlow, and not many expect them to push for promotion. And I'm still not sure if they will, but to give a game to Laois, who are probably maybe the strongest team in this division, things are looking good for them as well.
Yeah, agreed. No, definitely under Carew, they are going places. The final game then in Division 4, Wicklow 116, London 1-9. Wicklow get their first victory of the Allianz League 2023 and their first victory under Oisin McConville. London came to Ockram and leave with a 7-point defeat. The goal came from Kevin Quinn for Wicklow. London's goal came from a penalty converted by Christopher Frawley. One, though, that is definitely positive for Wicklow is, in my opinion, the improvement of Owen Darcy. He hit 6 points in this game, and under McConville, that could be something to watch out for.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's integrating some younger lads in there from the under-20s, Owen Darcy, Kevin Quinn. Patrick O'Toole's always been a player that I've been impressed with. So yeah, it was one of them results, probably a bit like Sligo Watford. You would have expected Wicklow to get the victory. But in saying that, I mean, we've seen London, Leitrim just about got over the line against them last week or 2 weeks ago. Wexford struggled against them. London are a sticky team to play, whether it's home or away. And in the end, big result for Wicklow. Good on their score difference. And the fact that Leitrim got beat as well, it puts Wicklow in a good position for promotion.
Yeah, no, agreed. And McConville will definitely want to chase that down. Just before we wrap up, that's Division 4 wrapped up. I want to get your moment of the weekend. So across all the games, including obviously the Fitzgibbon Cup, which one kind of stood out to you as being your moment? When you think back on all the action, which one sticks out to you?
Yeah, well, I suppose as a biased Dublin fan, I'd have to look at when Jack McCaffrey came back.
Agreed. There's another Dublin fan. I knew that. That's my one as well.
Yeah, and that moment, as I said, when he went past 2 players and popped the ball over the bar, that was just it was like getting a flashback from a couple of years ago or something, and it just brought you back to the good days. But yeah, it was great to see him back. I suppose, as we said at the top of the show, Michael Kiley's 4 goals, first half hat trick, Fitzgibbon Cup final. You can't look past something like that. Mayo's big win over Kerry, I suppose, as Dublin fans as well. It's always great to see Kerry get a bit of a beating. And then Roscommon winning 3 from 3. Who would have thought that at the start of the year?
Yeah, no, 100%. All good shouts there. So yeah, that is the full weekend recap, guys, here on Play on GAA. From me, Seamus Brady, and of course, Aaron Prendergast from GAA Fan TV. Thank you for giving us your time today. And until the next one, guys, take care.